In the middle of the 19th century, it's about 1829, there was a Russian woman by the name of Helena P. Blavatsky, Russian. She had supposedly some magical powers. She could read minds. She could heal people from a distance. And she had a companion, Henry Alcott. And it was an interesting time because you have a lot of philosophical and spiritual movements. And because they were very interested in the Hindu tradition, they had come to realize that our cultures and societies are slowly moving towards Kali Yoga. Yoga means two opposite forces coming together. It's like you have Jesus, the man, Christ, the Spirit of God coming together, and all of a sudden you have a human being who has divine qualities within. Kali in Hinduism means darkness, something that's dense and hard. So they had come to believe that human race and human generations are slowly entering into this dark age where reflection is out the window, feeling is out the window, compassion is out the window, all the things that make society work and all the things that make human life functional for the most part. So they came together and they formed an organization called the Theosophical Society. And after many years of combing through the sacred texts, not Islam, because they believed that Muhammad was a warrior and he was brutal and violent and all of that, they basically focused on Christianity, on Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism. They came to realize that every 2,000 years a Messiah figure appears. And you can kind of figure this out when you read the Old Testament and the genealogy of Matthew as well as Luke in the New Testament. And so what they realize is that year 2000 or 2,000 years is fast approaching. So let's go out there and look for a Messiah. And they go to India, they go to England, they go to various places, and they find a man named Jiddu Krishnamurti, 11 years of age, and they train him. They put him in a cave and they impose and influence his psyche, his physical body, and eventually he becomes a world teacher. The movie The Matrix comes, I think, Easter 1999. And Easter, as you know, it's when Jesus resurrects from the dead. And for those of you who enjoy reading books, there's a book that was written by the Russian novelist Fyodor Dostoevsky called Brother Karamazov. I think it's chapter 5. It's around the 15th century. People are celebrating because of the resurrection of Jesus, as people are just rejoicing and having fun because they believe themselves to be Christians, virtuous. All of a sudden they have this funny feeling that there is this presence amongst them. It's profoundly divine, it's profoundly holy, and they look out there and it looks like it's Jesus. And Jesus looks at them, shakes his head, realizing they're all counterfeit. But people, on the other hand, they're really, really happy because they have found themselves in the presence of something that's absolutely a miracle. The Pope, standing above, looks down and says, "Oops, we need to go down and handcuff him." And the Pope sends down the soldiers. Jesus is handcuffed, taken into a dungeon. The Pope goes down and looks at him and says, "What are you doing here? It has taken us 1,500 years to create Christian theology, to create various aspects of Christian doctrines. We have sold people a different version of Christianity, a version that makes them happy, comfortable. We have turned their brains into mush, so they don't have to think and reflect. We have given them all the answers, and they have purchased our answers. That's why we are so powerful. Why do you want to come back and ruin what we have created? Satan was right and you were wrong. People are not just going to follow you because they love you. No one loves you. You ask too much. You forgot human nature. Human nature is lazy. Human nature is lustful. Human nature is greedy. And you come amongst people and you tell them to do something that goes against life. Walk away from your parents. He who sits next to me sits next to fire. And even this class enjoy getting burnt. And even this class enjoy going through a divorce, walking away from your kids. And even this class enjoy experiencing instability, confusion, dread, fear. Of course not. And that's what Jesus promised. Where are you going? I don't know, just follow me. So for those of you in this class who at some point in your life may become interested in the Gospels, and you may kind of sit back once in a while and say, why are the disciples so flimsy? Well, there is a reason. His disciples are just human. They have parents, they have wives, they have kids, they have businesses that they want to run. It's very difficult to just follow this guy. and be true to him 24/7 is too much. So that's why they all deny him. You know, it's like you love your father, but you hate him as well. You don't really appreciate him. Only when he dies do you say, oh, I wish I could have spent more time with my father. And then you write this big fat book about how much you miss him. It's always easier to follow someone when they're no longer around. So the movie Matrix, if you look at the first three numbers, 5, 0, and 6, and you have to know a little bit about number magic, numerology. You have to know a few things about Indian culture, Asian culture, Christianity, I suppose. So the number 5 means to be a human being, the 5 senses. And our 5 senses really have only one function. Look out there, if there is anything that looks like fun, attractive, you pursue it. You become all meat and no spirit. That's what the senses are. And that's why we don't like depression. Because in depression, food doesn't taste good. What you look out there doesn't look good. What you hear doesn't look good. There is nothing you can hang on to, okay? If you're depressed and you read books and the books give you answer, you're not yet depressed. Depression is this dark, deep hole that you fall into and you can't get yourself out. Now, despite all of us in this class being sensory animals, in other words, our senses guide and govern our entire life, there is this other part to us that longs for something lasting. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know why it is that we chase after beauty, we chase after love, perfection. We want a book that brings us to life. Despite you needing this class, for example, some of you may find me absolutely dreadful and boring, and you're willing to kind of sabotage your entire future. You drop this class and you just go away. There is something about us that is more than willing to destroy whatever it is that you have created. You walk away because you're looking for something. In the Islamic tradition, the human being is likened to a tulip, a red one. So what you have, the petals are red, but when you look inside the tulip, it's black. And poets such as Hafiz, not so much Rumi, such as Sa'di, they have said there is a reason why we have a thing called a red tulip with a dark spot right in the middle. It's red because if you look at the human being from the time they're born to their last breath, they're always struggling for perfection, for beauty, for clarity, for stability, for companionship. In some shape or form, they want to be touched by God, if there is something like that out there. And that struggle breaks their heart all the time. You walk into a marriage because you want a companionship, you want to beautify your life. But in the end you realize, well, you speak, but she doesn't understand you. You buy a house in hopes of making it into a home. You buy sofas and chairs and this and that. It remains a house after a while. You know, you come to class, you're inspired the first, second, third day, the fourth day you realize, oh man, this is awful. And that's how life is. You and I are always moving towards some unknown destination. And there is a reason, because, and remember this is Middle Eastern philosophy. We're talking about profoundly religious and mystical poets and philosophers of the Middle East. And they say the middle of the tulip, the very center, is burnt because God's finger touched the human heart. You will get married. You will not reach perfection. You will buy a house. You may even turn it into a home, but longing will never disappear. You may come out and tell your father, I'm gay, I'm this, I'm that. You may accomplish all of that, but you'll still have this longing within you. It doesn't matter where you go, what you do. As long as you live, as long as you have breath that comes in and out, you're chasing after some unknown force out there that you want to be touched by. So despite being a number 5, despite having your companions Brad Pitt or Taylor Swift, there are moments you look at this perfected relationship and you realize that, nah, it's all good, but it's not enough. Why isn't it enough? Who the hell knows? Now, number 0 is about emptiness. Number 0 is about death. Number 0 is about you walking away from all the things accumulated by the number 5, by all the senses. And the reason why you want to die to everything that you have read, everything you have experienced, everything you have memorized and memorialized, is because it's no longer providing you sufficient answers. Now, some of you may find such philosophies of life intoxicating, exotic, but they're really not. It's not good to be 0. It's not good to be in a divorce. where you have no idea if she's going to come back and say, let's give this another shot. You're stranded in the middle of nowhere. Your kids are out there, you're out there, you're no longer young, all your hopes and dreams have been crushed, your parents are disappointed. If you happen to be religious, God is probably disappointed. And though you may enjoy your solitude, individuality, freedom for a day or two or three, the fourth day you realize you go inside your room and there is no one there. You can find some shelter and solace talking to the sofas and chairs, but after a while you say, I want a living, quacking dog or a plant or a human being in my life. This is far too much. Emptiness is not something we enjoy. So for those of you in this class who may one day read the biography of Malcolm X, this is like the Bible. It's a hero's journey. It's far, far, far better than the Gospels. Far better. It tells you about a human being contaminated by society, by history, and how in prison they lose everything, and they happen to be just very lucky at the right moment. They run into someone who is able to transform their life. Not just a moment of inspiration, not just a moment of excitement. I'm talking about an overhaul. You know, like you bring a bulldozer, you demolish your house, you get rid of the slab, you create a form, pour some concrete, let it set, and you build the structure, bottom up. Brand new house. Most of us can only read and be inspired for a few minutes before our senses kick in and go back into life. Number 6 is a number for perfection. So for those of you in this class who desire to get a taste of perfection and remain in that particular space, there are a couple of things you need to understand. First, you need to understand what it means to be a number 5. How your senses function, how they are enculturated, how they are tamed, how you experience things, how memory kicks in, how the past projects itself into the present and the future. It's a prison, not a bad prison to be in. Then either life breaks you, which is going to be devastating, and it's not something I really encourage any of you to experience, or you're broken by a mentor, a teacher. If you want to know what the difference is, imagine this cup, it slips through my fingers, it lands on the floor, and it breaks into 1,001 different pieces. It's very difficult to glue back together. Most often you just get a dustpan and a broom and trash the entire thing. A mentor means looks at this cup and says, I don't like this handle. I'm going to grab my grinder and just get rid of it. A mentor breaks you, knowing your capacity, knowing your culture, knowing your future, and of course, he has some experience.